Okay, so let's compare the Gateron Blues and the Kailh Box Navies. Alright, if umabot kayo sa part na ito, edi thank you. I just want to discuss a few things bukod dun sa sound comparison ng dalawang switch. First would be their key differences, and the next one would be on how I did the test. So for their key differences, we won't go too much into detail with regarding to their specs. You could search online for their differences when it comes to their spreadsheet values, and honestly hindi ako fan ng ganun data because it's really hard to imagine or to make sense of how a switch feels, or in this case sound, when you're just reading the spec sheet, no? So for example, when I say the Gateron Blues or have a 55 grams of actuation compared to the Kailh Box Navies that have 60 grams of actuation, diba? Yung 5 gram difference between their actuations, what does it mean, and how does it translate to the feel of the switch or to its tactility, and most especially on the sound that they make, since these two are clicky switches, diba? You won't get that by reading spec sheets, but if you want to have a background on these key differences pagdating sa specs, then by do means just read their specifications, but honestly don't put too much time into it. As you have heard from the video, for the first part of the video, yung sound yung pinaka key difference nilang dalawa. So the blues and the navies, so they are both clicky switches, and there are three major types of switch, and diba? We have those linears, the tactile ones, and the clicky switches. So the clicky switches, ito yung pinakamaingay dun sa tatlo, and what makes the navies so much louder than the blues is yung what do you call this, the way the sound is being made. Traditionally kasi for blue switches, we have what they call the click jacket. So it's just a piece of plastic na tumatama on another piece of plastic, diba? So may parang how should I say it, may bukol yung blues na pag pinindot mo would be hitting or tumatama siya doon sa casing niya, which provides the clicky sound. And for the longest time, this is how blue switches make their sound, through click jackets, while these navies, gumawa yung Kailh ng new way to produce sound, which is a click bar. Basically merong metal rod na tumatama dun sa switch every time you press it, which makes the very distinct clicky sound niya. Kaya medyo heavier pa, it's much heavier yung tunog na napoproduce ng navies compared dun sa blues. So that's their key difference dun sa sound, and I think hearing how the navies sound when put into a keyboard, uh, medyo malayo din talaga yung gap between the sound that they make. I don't know if I would be able to use blues again. Of course I would, pero mas gusto ko na yung sound na napoproduce nung navies. And that's a thing na mahirap ng balikan. Once you go navy, there's no turning back ish. Bukod sa sound, which is the clear difference between the two, the navies are much heavier than the blues, and it takes a conscious effort to type using the navies, and depende siguro sa preference ng user, but this might not be suitable for everyone, or this might not look as appealing for everyone kasi mapapagod ka mag-type using the navies. I've used heavier switches before. I think that's the MX Clears, and yeah, to be honest, nakakapagod siya when used for work and for daily typing. I think ganun din yung maging experience ko for the navies. I think I should have gone with the lighter ones, which are the box jades, pero I want to hear and feel yung what is considered as the most clicky switch among them all. So maybe pag napagod ako using these box navies, I would try also the box jades. So yun lang yung noticeable, or rather key difference between the two switch. It's the sound that it makes, and kung gaano kabigat when pressing them. So with that being said, let's go on how I compared these two switches when I recorded their sound. So it's really not that complicated. As much as possible, gusto ko parehas yung setup para hindi magkaroon ng ganong kalaking variance, and yung pinaka variable lang sa comparison natin would be the switch type. If I used another keyboard, magkakaroon ng different effect yun eh. So I want to minimize yung pagkakaiba nilang dalawa. That's why I use the same keyboard and I use the same keycaps, because keyboards and keycaps, they also contribute on how a switch sounds, no? So the material of the keycap, the material of the keyboard, yung kung tumatama ba siya sa casing, sa plate, or 'di ba? So it actually maraming factors on why keyboards sound different from each other, no? So I tried to make it as uniform as possible. I used my Keychron K2. Shout out Keychron, best keyboard manufacturer right now. Baka naman. So ayan. Okay, so meron lang akong konting discussion about this part, no? So meron tayong tinatawag na O-rings, or ito yung when you want to silence your keycaps, no? And the way it is done is by putting a rubber ring between the keycap and the keyboard case. Kasi nangyari, if you type too hard, no? If you're a bottom out typer, ibig sabihin madiin yung pindot mo sa switch, tumatama yung ilalim ng keycap doon sa mismong case ng keyboard, which produces another sound. So bukod doon sa click na pinoproduce ng switch, nagproproduce ka pa ng bagong sound, which is the plastic hitting the case of the keyboard. So if you really want a silent one, you put O-rings. So ano lang naman to, nothing special about this. Ang ginamit ko dito actually is yung goma for braces. You put it sa loob ng keycap mo, so that way magkakaroon ng gap, ng konting gap, and even if you bottom out yung press mo, hindi tatama yung keycap mo sa case ng keyboard mo or sa plate ng keyboard mo, which would negate yung sound na napoproduce nito. So if you are having a linear or a tactile switch, in theory dapat when you type and you're not a bottom out typer, wala kang sound na maririnig dapat. So well, in theory so that's why I did this. Kasi gusto ko yung sound lang na maproproduce would be the click of the switch as much as possible. So hindi mo maiwasan na merong ibang sound na naproproduce sa sobrang diin mag-type, but that's the reason why I used O-rings for this test. And you could see naman yung difference. Well, hindi siya sobrang noticeable, I guess, but if you listen closely, there's a distinct sound difference, no, between those keycaps na walang O-rings versus keycaps na meron. Very very minimal, pero once you hear it, makikita nyo na yung, or rather maririnig nyo na yung pagkakaiba. Medyo ano lang, medyo nitty details, but yeah, that's what makes this hobby fun, no. And I guess that's it, no, the difference between these two switches and how I made the test. I hope na if you're someone who's into clicky switches, you'd find this helpful, no, kasi the Gateron Blues, medyo ito yung prototype ng classic blue switches, be it Cherry MX Blues, Otemu Blues. So lahat ng blue variants halos parehas ng ganito. They are using click jackets kasi, and Kailh introducing the click bar is really something new when it comes to clicky switches, kasi I believe hindi masyadong nag-advance or wala masyadong innovation pagdating sa clicky switches. Ang daming bagong tactile switch, pero I find the lack of clicky switches disappointing, I guess wala masyadong market for clicky switch, but then again, these are the switches that I love, and I hope they make more variants of clicky switches. So again, thanks for watching, and take care.